Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Freddie. We're in the studio this time. In this video, I just kind of want to show you how I track out my stuff from the MPC or MPC Live in this case into a DAW, in this case, Ableton. I have a beat kind of somewhat completed on the MPC. It's mainly just a loop, but I want to track everything out into Ableton because I'm not entirely in love with the drums that I made on the MPC. I kind of want to rework the drums within Ableton. And yeah, I'm just gonna record all the sample chops, like the stems and maybe the bass line on here into Ableton, and then we're gonna rework the drums within Ableton. But I'll go ahead and play the beat so you can like listen to it. Let me just switch cameras here. Let me just kind of show you or quickly describe how I route the audio as far as recording the MPC into my computer. For the most part, all my external like synths and machines and stuff like that, they get routed into this mixer over here, and then that mixer gets routed into basically a patch bay, and then the patch bay goes into my audio interface, which is a Mode 2 828 Mark II. It's an older audio interface. I've just had it for years. But in this case, since I want to take the audio directly from the MPC and then put it into the computer, I kind of don't want too many middlemen, basically. So I'll take the outputs from the MPC and directly patch it into the patch bay, and then the patch bay goes into the audio interface. So I have a new live session open over here. That's Ableton right there on the right side, you can see. And I'm just going to go ahead and play the beat first so you can kind of listen to what it sounds like, and then we'll record the stems. So here's the beat. Yeah. So, I mean, the beat's decent, like, especially like the drums are decent, but like I said, I'm not like married to them. So let's go ahead and kind of like rework that. So what I'll do now is I'll solo each of the tracks within the MPC Live, and then just record it directly into Ableton and just kind of match the BPMs. It's 89, 89 on here, 89 on Ableton. There is a way you can link the two, especially with the new MPC Live and the MPC X. You can use Ableton Link to kind of link the clocks and everything like that. But for this sake, and just to kind of, I don't know, to kind of expedite things, I'm just going to record directly into it without worrying about like the MIDI clock or anything like that. So let's go ahead and solo each of these kind of tracks. Let's see, I don't want that. So here's the initial sample chops. Okay, and then on Ableton, let's go ahead and just start the metronome. And then the Mode 2 has like 8 ins and outs. I guess 4 stereo ins, if you want to put it that way. So I'm using one of the inputs. I just kind of have it mapped into Ableton. So I just have to select the correct input, which is 7 and 8. And then we'll go ahead and record here. So it's an 8-bar loop, but I'll go ahead and record like 16 bars. Okay. So that is the first sample. Let's see if this just kind of loops correctly. Because sometimes when if you push the play start button on the MPC, like a millisecond off, it won't loop correctly. So we're just gonna check that real quick. Okay, since this is 8 bars, we'll do another 4 here. I just want to make sure it loops correctly. Yeah, that's pretty darn good, actually. Usually I have to kind of like edit things over. So we'll make another audio track with the same ins, and we'll go ahead and record the next thing here, which is track 7 on the MPC. So here is track 7 on the MPC. Is that right? Yeah, it's just like some accented sample chops. So we'll go ahead and arm on the MPC for track 2. And then we'll just record another 16-bar loop. Okay. So let's see. I'm pretty sure that loops up pretty correctly. So we'll make another track, same inputs. Go ahead and arm that one, and we'll take the next track on the MPC and record that one. See what it sounds like first. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and record. It'll count in. And this kind of has a delay at the very end of these sample chops, so I kind of want to make sure I capture it within the recording. So I'll let it kind of extend out. Okay. So there's 3 tracks that we recorded. Let's go ahead and create another track. And let's see what the next one is. I think it's a bass line. Let's go ahead and just record it. Yeah, we can probably use this bass line. I don't think I have to record a new one. Okay. So here is the samples and the bass, and we'll add a new track, same thing, thingamajig. And I think this is like a flute that I added to the MPC, but I'm kind of like not in love with that part. What's cool about the new MPCs, as far as like the software goes, if you're running MPC firmware 2.3 and above, they implemented using like VSTs within the standalones, so the MPC Live and the MPC X. So what you can do is just hook up a MIDI controller like this one down here, and this is connected directly to the MPC via USB, because there's some USB, there's like a USB hub on the back of the MPC Live, and then you can just basically use a MIDI controller, an external MIDI controller, to trigger the VSTs that they have for the MPC Live, which is pretty cool. So I basically just played some stuff. I don't even know what I played. On the MPC VST. So I'll just go ahead and just play it out. Yeah, I just played that on the keys right here. I like what I played. I'm not super in love with the sound, because it's basically like a Rhodes VST within MPC Live, and sometimes especially when you're working with Rhodes sounds, electric piano sounds, they can kind of sound cheesy. So you have to kind of tweak them so it doesn't sound as cheesy. I mean, this is not as bad as what I've heard other VSTs sound like. So we're just going to go ahead and just keep it for the meantime, or record it for the meantime. Maybe we can re-record it using a different instrument, like on the keyboard here, like some pianos, or maybe the electric piano on this keyboard over here. So let's go ahead and record it. Or we can actually maybe just keep this one and then just add some effects on top of it so it doesn't sound as like digital, you know what I'm saying? Like not as cheesy. Like we can just basically filter it a little bit so it doesn't sound as bad. I mean, it doesn't sound terrible, but it doesn't sound like the way I want it to sound. Okay, and I think that's all I recorded on here. Yeah. So, like I said, we're not going to use the drums on here. So let's go ahead and just, I want to mute the, let's just listen to the loop first. So this is everything that we just recorded from the MPC into Ableton. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the MPC because we don't need it right now. Okay, so another way I could have done this is use the MPC software within Ableton and just bounced out the audio, like save the sequence on like a little thumbnail drive and then opened it up within the MPC software on the computer and then just kind of like routed the audio out of that. But, you know, just for time's sake, this might have been just like an easier solution. I mean, there's a few different ways you can go about like taking stems off of like a machine, like a MPC or the Electron Digitac, or, you know, you can export all like the waves or whatever, so you can kind of do it that way. But just for time's sake, we're just going to record directly into the computer. So let's go ahead and maybe work some drums here. So what I kind of wanted to do was let's mute that one, is just kind of go through some drum loops and see if I can kind of come up with something. See, what I like to do with like drum like loops that are already kind of put together is just kind of like tweak them. Or sometimes what I like to do is there's like a drum loop or drum break that I really like. Not necessarily the sounds involved, but like kind of like how the drums are being played, like the rhythm or like the groove. And I'll just basically make a drum rack and then just copy the groove that I heard within a different drum break. So sometimes you just like the drum loop just for like the groove, like how the drums kind of like swing. So you kind of want to copy that, like mimic that style. So let's go ahead and just like import some stuff here. See, I like how these drums sound, but I don't necessarily like the groove or like the pattern. So what I can do within Ableton is just select the drum loop and hit convert on the MPC or the what is this Ableton push, and then convert it into something that I can work with, well, using the same sounds though. So let's go ahead and put this in slicing mode. I mean, it's just basically like a kick and a snare. Like, let's listen to the loop here. See, there's no hi-hats or anything. It's a really simple kind of like loop. Okay, let's go ahead and mess with some of the parameters on here. Just make it like snap a little bit better. See, I like the make the grid a little bit smaller here. Then I like the snare, but then I might not use this the kicks. Let's just record the snare. And then let's just quantize the snare. I kind of like this kick is okay because it's like a kick and a hi-hat kind of like stacked on top of each other. This one doesn't have that one, have the hi-hat stacked. So I might just use this one without the hi-hat. Just let me duplicate this part so we can add different effects to this. So let's just add some reverb to this snare. Volume on this one. Sometimes I'll just like play the kick, like just see where I kind of want it. Maybe like that. So let's go ahead and just record that. Okay, what is that? Okay, let's just kind of move this stuff over. Shifting, like micro shifting things over. Like they don't have to necessarily be snapped to the grid like quantized, but they're not exactly like super sloppy, you know what I'm saying? They're just kind of like in its correct place, I guess. Even though the snare is like pretty snapped to the grid, like the drums, like the everything else around it can be a little bit loose. So let's go ahead and let's save this real quick. That's one thing you have to do. What should we name this one? What was the last beat I made on here? Is this even the right folder? Beat 482. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's just a skeleton right now. Let's go ahead and look for some percussion loops that we can kind of tweak. See, I like this one, but let's go ahead and like kind of tweak the transients on here. So if you select the sample and then you come down to the bottom, you can kind of mess with the warping on here, and you can mess with the transient kind of like thing on here as well. And you can kind of pitch it down. So I kind of don't like the rhythm pattern, but I kind of like how the hi-hat hits the snare. So I might just like use that part. So we can kind of delete, I think, here. Yeah. We can maybe delete this part as well. Yeah, so we're just basically taking that part, just like when it hits the snare. Just copy it over. And then we're gonna just adjust the panning on it because it's hitting to the left a little bit more than the right. Okay. And let's go ahead and just hear how the pitch is. Okay, that's good. So let's add a little bit of reverb to this. Let's bring down the volume a little bit as well. It kind of gives that like clap feel, even though it's not a clap. Okay, let's look at some other. See how that sounds. See, I like the beginning of this. So I might just like chop this up. Let's go to convert real quick. And let's kind of chop this. Sometimes I just mess with stuff without even like using it. So let's mess with the transients on this one as well. It's kind of an interesting sound. It's kind of like this like weird pattern for the. Let's use that. I just kind of pitched it up a little bit. Let's add a little bit of reverb to that. Let's bring down the volume. See what a delay sounds like with this one. Yeah, sounds too busy. Let's see some other hi-hat loops here. Oops, not that one. Let's see. See what this sounds like if you mess with the transients on this one as well. See how that sounds duplicated. Kind of like this. Add a little reverb to that as well. Okay, we're just gonna take that off of it and see some other. See this one. Kind of mix as I go, you know, just kind of blend everything properly. Okay, it's too much going on there. I like this. let's take what we're not using and just put it on the bottom real quick, because I want to group these drums together. We'll group them together and we'll just add this drum bus onto the group, so it hits a little bit harder. Just bring down the volume on the kick. I want to add a little bit of reverb to the kick as well. And I'm going to transpose the kick as well. Save it, of course. Always get in the habit of saving. Oh, I kind of messed this up, didn't I? Why was this? Here. Let's bring the volume down on this one a little bit. Okay, that's decent enough. I actually want to add more onto the drums. So let's go ahead and open up Addictive Drums DOS here. And maybe we can add some hi-hats. Kind of like a tambourine hi-hat. So let's go ahead and add it onto the snare stack. That as well. Since the snares are like quantized, we can quantize this this as well. So we're gonna go ahead and duplicate that VST track. That way we don't have to kind of redo the whole thing and just delete the MIDI thing. Let's go find another kit to use here. like how the hi-hat sounds closed but not open. Sometimes I'll just go through a bunch of kits. I kind of like this one though. I'll just go through like a massive amounts of kits just to find hi-hats. Kind of like this one. Sounds okay. Let's go ahead and record it. Just re-record that. Sometimes I don't like what I just did. Okay. And you can come here if you can kind of see the velocity, how I kind of played this. I played like the first kind of notes at full velocity, and then the notes in between at a minimal velocity. So how like an actual drummer would kind of play the hi-hats a little bit. And then let's take this open hi-hat and just bring it down a little bit as far as the velocity goes. And let's just go ahead and duplicate that. Maybe we need to bring that back, actually. The velocity for the hi-hat, or open hi-hat. Let's go ahead and just record that part, that kind of like longer. Oh, is this even not like, it's not on there correctly. This part. Okay, let's take that first part of this part. Okay, let's go ahead and just add this to the group of drums. We can make any kind of adjustments we need to there. All right, let's go ahead and move to the keyboard. Since we kind of have the drums kind of where I want them, I'm not entirely in love with these new drums either, but I think it's a little bit better than what was made on the MPC. I like the groove a little bit more. It's just a lot of stacking, I guess. Let's go ahead and move to the keyboard. I'm gonna get up. We're gonna have to route the audio a little bit better because it's running through a pedal, and the pedal is hooked up to the computer. So maybe we can reroute the power to the pedal here. So that's why it's giving me that that feedback sound. It just needs to be plugged in directly into the wall here. Too many wires. Let's go ahead and disconnect that. Let's see how that sounds. Oh, whoops. Is that right? Okay, see? Now we don't have that feedback. Now we can jam out. Let me go back here. So you can kind of see what's going on. Whoops. There we go. Whoops. Sorry. What the heck? Okay. Let's just kind of jam out real quick, and then we'll... So I have, if you can see at the top left camera, I have this guitar pedal, or it's a multi-effects pedal, and it's... I like to run synths and like keyboards through it rather than actual guitars. But it has a bunch of effects, like digital effects on here. So you can with this one by Zoom, it's called a multi-stomp. The model is MS-50G. You can chain effects together, so you can have multiple effects on one pedal. So usually I like to use this for like delays and reverbs and some like chorus sounds and like phaser sounds, and you can kind of stack them all together using just one pedal. So here's the dry signal, and then I have a delay on here. So if I hit the switch, you can hear that delay. So here it is dry, and here's with the delay. And then I have another effect on here. It's called a mono pitch, and what it does is it adds like another kind of voice onto whatever you're running through it. So it has like a voice that's an octave lower or an octave higher. So I have it an octave lower. So it stacks on the original sound, just an octave lower. So here's the original, or the dry signal, I mean with the delay. And then with the mono pitch, this is what it sounds like. So when you play something high, see. So let's go ahead and play with the sounds here. just disconnect it from the pedal, because the pedal is mono basically, and I don't want to record in mono. I kind of want to record in stereo, and some of the synths some of the synths on the keyboard are like stereo kind of patches, including this Rhodes sound. So it kind of like pans left and right. I guess you have to hear it on speakers or headphones, but it's basically panning left and right. Record that little riffy. So I'm gonna create a new audio track here and find which okay. Let's go ahead and record that. Messed it up. Let's do it over. It's okay to do it a little sloppy. Adding on. Let's unmute that original Rhodes that we played. Let's look for like a lead, like synth. road sounds. Let's just kind of record that. It's just like a accented kind of synth. Add some like effects to this, mainly an EQ that was added to the wrong track, because we kind of want to take the low end off of that, so it's just kind of like the mid and the highs of that. Add a little bit of reverb to this, maybe even a lot of reverb, and we're gonna do an auto pan on this as well. And the rate will be a little bit fast, like around 3 hertz, I guess. It's just to kind of accent the already roads, because we don't want to fight with the roads. We kind of want to accent it a little bit. Just check one more thing on here, and that is the flute. I know we didn't record the flute from the MPC, but I kind of want to add something like simple like that, just like to accent it. Record that. It's something a little bit simple like that. Actually, we can use this one. What is that, 9 and 10? Okay, let's go ahead and record that. I mean, I know there's a lot going on right now, but once I show you kind of how to map everything out, it might sound a little bit different. Save it. Okay, that's decent. See, you just need to add on like some little small things and it can really open up the song. Whoops, and then the camera messes up. Hold on. The camera messes up. Am I on it? Hold on. Sorry. Ugh. Okay, camera. Doesn't want to mess up. Okay. Is that better? I have no idea. There. Be careful with the camera. Okay. Let's go ahead. Oops, sorry. Too many cameras. Okay. Is that good? Okay. There. Okay. Let's go ahead and just kind of map this out. So we basically worked with an 8-bar loop here. Let's just kind of trim anything that's being left over there. Some of the stuff I do want to keep. I know we kind of use that bass line. Some of this stuff kind of spills over, so I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate all this right here over. Yeah, and then we'll just kind of duplicate this 8-bar. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of just like trim what we need here. Okay, and I'm going to actually split these. Okay, so this stuff can get duplicated, basically. And then we'll take the stuff in the beginning out. So we'll just listen to, I think it's like 4 bars here. Let's do that. So this is kind of like the intro. Let's take this bass line out of it. Let's take some of the drums out of it actually as well. Okay, let's see. There's actually no effects on the stuff that we took out of the MPC. Actually, there's effects, but they were effects applied within the MPC, not within Ableton. Okay, so like all the road stuff we don't need to worry about yet. I think this is part of the roads. Let's just kind of group these two together. Group. I guess we can rename this so it all makes kind of sense here. And let's rename this one to drum. Okay, so I finished the video right here, basically, and I was watching the footage of the recap, and right when I'm speaking, everything cuts out. Like basically, like the audio cuts out. I still have video, but all the audio that I said from this moment until the very end, it was like 10 to 15 minutes was just completely silent. So I have to apologize. So this is kind of like I'm coming back and describing what's going on here. So basically, from when the audio cut out and to here from right now, I basically just mapped out the rest of the song, and I took out parts and added effects and kind of brought in the drums and took out the drums in certain sections. And this is basically like kind of like the final product, not necessarily the very final product, but more as like the the kind of the finish to the actual video. So I'll go ahead and just play everything out so you can kind of listen to how I mapped out the whole song, or not the whole song, but the beginning. So there's like an intro, then there's kind of like a verse section, then there's like a hook or a chorus section, and then there's kind of like a dropout section. So we'll just play it. Somebody's calling me from Australia. Scammers. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's kind of how I mapped out everything. I mean, later on, I can add some more stuff or take away more stuff or add like a breakdown or whatever it is. But that's pretty much the gist of it. You got most, before the audio cut out from the rest of the video, you got a good sense of how I kind of mapped everything in as well as like recorded everything and played the keyboard stuff. So everything after that, it wasn't entirely important. It was more just like editing and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's kind of like how I kind of record from the MPC, like a beats that started from in the MPC Live. I took selected tracks off of that, recorded it into Ableton, and then we reworked the drums, basically redid the drums. I mean, the kick and the snare I think are the same, but everything else is kind of like a little bit different. And then played stuff on the keyboard, just recorded it into Ableton, and yeah, and then just added small effects as we went along. Did some small mixing as we went along. As you can see, like on the master bus, you can see it's in the red, basically, just kind of whatever. I mean, I adjust all these things later on, as far as the mixing process goes, adding effects, as far as plugins, compression, stuff like that. It all kind of gets mixed all at once. Sometimes I do it like while I'm creating a beat, but I don't really worry about that too much in the creative process, as far as like the levels go, for the most part. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just to remind everybody, my audio podcast, Fredcast, is now available on iTunes, meaning like the iTunes podcast. So if you use an iPhone like me, and they have the podcast app, you can go on there and just listen to my podcast, as well as it's available on Spotify now. So if you listen to podcasts on Spotify, my audio podcast Fredcast is on Spotify as well. Uh, Thanks again for tuning into these YouTube kind of streams or recording studio sessions. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks again. Peace.